In this video, we're going to talk about the main reasons why people are moving out of St. Augustine, Florida. If we have not met yet, my name is Josh Rogers, and I'm a real estate agent that leads the F3 Home Team. That stands for Faith, Family, and Freedom. That's our core values and what we're all about. So if you can relate and identify with that, well, you found your people. If you have any questions about moving in or out of St. Augustine, we hope to be your go-to real estate agent of choice. You can just send us a quick text or join our Facebook group, which is called Moving to St. Johns County, Florida. The link is below. Well, let's jump right into it. The first of three topics includes affordability. Now, affordability applies to the cost of living, the cost of housing, and then also cost of insurance. And then on the back end of this is just the availability of high-paying jobs. So whenever we talk about the cost of living across the board, we've seen, I think the large majority of the country has seen prices just skyrocket because of inflation and then just because of all the reasons since COVID. And so specifically speaking, the cost of housing prices and real estate prices and also rents have really grown since COVID. So pre-pandemic levels, say 2019, the average housing price in St. Augustine, also including St. Johns County, for single family homes was in the 300s. Well, just this last month, that same average house prices is $525. That's an extreme jump. In some areas, with some communities, depending on the actual price range, housing has nearly doubled within a short 4 years. For us locals, that's pricing a lot of us out of our own market. Because while housing prices have nearly doubled, not quite, but nearly over the past 4 to 5 years, generally speaking, the rise in prices for housing mimics the rise of income. While current income levels are nowhere near on pace that of the increase in housing prices. So for the locals that live here, we're looking at these prices just skyrocketing and we're thinking, oh my goodness, like good for everyone who's moving here to Florida, to St. Augustine, many of which are able to work remotely. Now what that means is they have some really wonderful high-paying jobs in their current states where the cost of living and housing and affordability is all much higher, so they're getting paid more. Well, now they're able to work remotely anywhere in the country. So a lot of them are moving to Florida. They're like, you know what? We wanted to eventually be in Florida. We want to retire in Florida. Well, now that we can work remotely, why wait? Let's do it now. And so a lot of these high income earners are moving to the area as housing prices skyrocket, but their income is able to sustain those prices. Well, for us locals, we're like, dude, we're getting priced out. Like we're handcuffed to our properties because if we sell our current home that we live in, what in the world are we gonna buy? That's a big reason that people in St. Augustine are moving out of St. Augustine. And I wanna actually tell you on the back end of this video where we're seeing people actually migrate to. Super interesting, something you may not have realized. So with that being said, also, the price of insurance. Now the price of insurance has also doubled, tripled within the past handful of years. And that's because just of all the carnage Florida has gone through with all the storms. And so, the entire state of Florida gets lumped into one big group of families that need insurance. Now, while the northeast coast generally doesn't get hit directly by a lot of storms, the rest of Florida does. And so that's what's increasing the insurance across the board for everyone. And so there's no question. I live in a home that's around 3,000 square feet. And it's about 15 years old. My insurance when I bought the home was around $800 to $900 a year. Now it's around $4,000 to $5,000 per year. It really spiked within the past 2 to 3 years. Now let's put this into perspective. We're talking about $5,000 per year. So that's a big spike from where it was. But again, it's $5,000 a year, for the cost of insurance. We're not saying $20,000 a year or $50,000 a year. You just have to budget differently to cover the cost of insurance. But if you're on a limited budget, that absolutely, you feel the pain. And so that would be one of those instances where moving in Florida is not going to solve the problem, but actually moving out of the state of Florida will help solve that problem. The other side of this coin is not only is housing and rents increasing, insurance costs increasing, but also there's not a plethora of high-paying jobs locally in St. Augustine. Now, St. Augustine's main economic driver is tourism. So outside of that, yeah, you have some hospitals, you have Flagler College, you have attorneys and other professional services, but for the large majority of the workforce, there's not a ton of options directly in St. Augustine. You really need to travel north to Jacksonville to have more access to those jobs. Or another option is work remotely. So if you're able to work remotely and have a high-paying job, well, fantastic, it doesn't matter. If you're looking for high-paying professional in-person jobs, you're gonna have to travel to Jackson for that because there's just not that many available in St. Augustine. And so if someone is not working remotely or has that option, they may be led to move out of St. Augustine to have a better quality of life with a more affordable lifestyle with a job that supports it. The second driver that is leading people to move out of St. Augustine is the increasing population. Gosh, it seems like so many people in the entire country want to move to Florida, and they are, and they have been over the past 4 years, and we don't see that slowing down anytime soon. And so what's happening with the homeowners that have lived here for the past so many years, especially the locals, is they're seeing tons and tons of land being developed and these new communities being built out. And so naturally, that's gonna lose that charm that once was. It's gonna lose some of that privacy, some of that peace and quiet. Also, with increased population is going to be increased traffic, increased kids in school, then also increased tourism. And so let's talk about increased traffic. While we would like to say that the infrastructure has been pre-planned for this big flood of population growth, it's not. And so there's a lot of construction happening to try to accommodate all of the increased cars. Specifically, Interstate 95, if you commute to Jacksonville at all, or you want to go to the airport, 95 is totally hit or miss because there's a lot of people using that exit, 2 exits or 3 exits into St. Augustine. And if there's an accident, then traffic's going to be backed up for at least an hour. And that's incredibly frustrating. Also, traffic around all the historic district, then even out on Anastasia Island on the weekends, and then also on any holidays, it's jam-packed because of the increased population, but also all the tourism. The tourism is not slowing down anytime soon. If anything, it's continuing to increase as more people continue to get out and travel. And so if you're a local, that traffic can become really aggravating just on your day-to-day schedule. You being bumper to bumper, that's important to you, then that's a reason that some people are choosing to live on the outskirts or just move out of St. Augustine altogether. Now, another part of increased population means more kids in schools. That's the #1 complaint for St. Johns County schools is overcrowded schools. Now, St. Johns County is near the top of the list when it comes to the best public schools in the state of Florida based on rankings and grades. But along with that means there's so many people moving here to St. Johns County because of the schools. Now that's just overcrowded. And so that means really big classes, probably not enough support services, not enough staff, not enough individual one-on-one attention. So that's a reason people are moving out of St. Augustine or second guessing, the decision when it comes to education. Home education is a great option, alternative, and then there's alternative schools and private schools. So the state of Florida is incredibly positive when it comes to you choosing how you want to educate your kids. So there's a lot of options with and through that. I do want to touch that some locals and just some residents in general are saying St. Augustine's kind of losing that small town feel and that southern charm just because of more bodies, more cars, more people, more stores, more developments, more growth. And I don't think there's any way to cover that up or to get around that. Like, it's just, when you're in the path of progress, things are going to change, and for better or worse. And for some people, it may be better, and the same thing, people may look at it as worse. So that's one of the reasons people are leaving, is because they'll say, you know what, there's so many new residents, there's people coming from other states, it just doesn't feel like it used to feel. I used to be able to go to the grocery store or go to church and always recognize people, and I felt like, cheers, where everybody knew your name. Well, that's not the case now. And so that's definitely a factor that people are feeling. Another thing to keep in mind is with the added population growth means more developments. And so as people, say, have lived in a home for 10 to 20 years and they had nice forest across the street or across from their view or whatever, some areas are being developed. So that means the trees are going away and houses are going up, storage units are going up, gas stations are going up. So just the overall, say, privacy or scenery is definitely being affected by all the increased population growth. So future development and current development is something that people are saying, you know what, this is not for me. Think about it, St. Augustine used to be a salty, sleepy little town. And so people felt like it was very kind of intimate and close-knit and super cozy. So if that's what someone is holding on to, it's certainly changing, and which is the reasons they're feeling this and wanting to leave. The last reason people are leaving St. Augustine is because of the weather. It's just too hot. It's like a big swamp. And yes, while you're next to the Atlantic Ocean and you get that ocean breeze, it seems like the older we get, the hotter it is. And I'm sure that doesn't have anything to do with climate change. It just has everything to do with us getting old and grumpy. And so we are seeing people say, you know what, I'm done with the humidity. I'm done with the heat. I'm out of here. And that kind of touches on what I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Where do we see people moving whenever they leave St. Augustine? And what's your guess? It's actually going to be that North Georgia, North Carolina area. Going to the Appalachian Mountains, the Smoky Mountains, there along the Blue Ridge area. I mean, us Floridians are so used to the beach and the sand and the sun. When we go to the North Georgia mountains, man, it's like God's country. It sings to our soul. And so I've talked to countless families that say either that's where we are moving or that's where we plan to move, which is super interesting. We also find people that move here from, say, the West Coast or even the Northeast of the country that are coming to Florida for all the reasons that they want to come to Florida. And then they realize, man, the summers are not just hot, but they're just long. And this is a little too much for us. So what we find are families that move down for a couple years and they're like, nah, we're out of here. And then they bounce back up to the North Carolina area for just a little bit more reprieve when it comes to the heat. And then also they say that they like the seasons up there, because here in St. Augustine, you really don't get the seasons. Now you definitely get more of a chill throughout the winter than, say, Orlando, Tampa, South Florida. Here in the winter, it'll get in the 30s, you know, for a week or two. Sometimes it'll freeze. Definitely nice 40s and 50s. So here in St. Augustine, it's plenty enough for you to have those nice sweaters and your favorite winter jacket and be able to, you know, drink your favorite coffee during the Christmas time. But it's still not enough for some people who say, no, I want to experience all 4 seasons. And so they move from St. Augustine. Now, being a Florida local and native, this is my take on the weather. I absolutely love the weather. Right now, for the shooting of this video, we're in the middle of August, which is supposed to be like the thick of it. And this is what I share with people. It gets hot. July, August, 2 hottest months of the year. And guess what? Everybody just stays in air conditioning. If you do anything outside, it's generally the morning time or late evening, because it stays light until 9 o'clock. But during the day, you're in your air-conditioned home, you get in your air-conditioned car, you go to air-conditioned school or air-conditioned work or air-conditioned church or, you know, whatever else is air-conditioned, and then you do it all over again. And so we just put up with 2 months of that, and then all the other months, the 10 other months, it's a real pleasure. I mean, once we get into, say, October, like November, December is fantastic. January, February, March, April, beautiful. Like the weather, the humidity leaves, kind of feels like California weather. Cool at night, crisp at night, nice kind of vibrant, lively breeze during the day. So I just want to remind people that, especially all along the East Coast, all the way up to New York, it gets really hot in all of those states. As hot as Florida. We just have an extra month and a half or 2, just an extra month or 2 of the hot weather. But the difference is in January, February, here in St. Augustine, it's an absolute delight. Whereas January and February in New York, brutal. They're just getting smashed. And so I would say, hey, there's a trade-off, and I would much rather have really enjoyable winter months than brutal, cold, gray, stormy months up in the Northeast. So for me, the weather's not a big deal. For some, they say I'm out of here. With all that being said, we talk to families every day that are in your exact same shoes, that are looking for the best place to move in the state of Florida for all the reasons that you do. And whenever people reach out to us, often it's through text message or even on Facebook Messenger, we get to learn about their goals, their needs, and put together kind of a game plan and a strategy, because trying to plan out of town, out of state, that's a big deal. And there's so many options and directions you can take here locally. Many different communities with pros or cons, locations, CDD fees, HOA fees, different types of builders, different types of floor plans, all the different amenities. And so what we do is once we hear what your goals are, then we'll send you the best options. So we can at least give you a shortened list, because whenever you visit in town for say 3 to 4 days, you're not wasting time driving around kind of eliminating the things that don't even match your criteria, but you're able to go to the best options first and not feel overwhelmed. You can really have that confidence and peace of mind that you're looking at the things that fit your needs and your goals. So then whenever you leave your visit, you have a really good understanding of, man, this is what I really like, this is not what I like. And keep in mind, when you visit, you don't want to fill your entire time with just visiting homes. You want to get a feel for the area. Go to restaurants, go to parks, go to farmers markets and the shops, so you can just experience the energy and the vibe and the lifestyle of what it's like in St. Augustine. So where do we go from here? Well, I'd recommend one or two things depending on where you are in your journey. If you're kind of closer within that year time frame of making a transition, then I would say just reach out to us. Send a quick text. My team and I can jump in and really help you out and send you a lot of really good information right out of the gate. If you say, hey Josh, I'm more like 3 years out, join our Facebook group. It's called Moving to St. Johns County, Florida. The link is below, and you'll see a lot of really great questions families just like you are asking every day. And you're seeing a lot of updates and specials, a lot of stuff that we just don't put on YouTube because it's not the right place. Well, if you've enjoyed this video, I want to recommend the next video, which is what's going on with the schools in St. Johns County? Why are people complaining? And what has changed that I don't know about yet? That's going to be the next video. Check that out, and I look forward to connecting with you.